Welcome to the Money for Dads podcast. This is your host, Adam Katz. This podcast is for dads like you and me who want to save on everything, stretch your paycheck, and spend more time with your family. I don't want you or your spouse to be forced anymore to pick up extra shifts, take second jobs, work overtime, or sacrifice necessities just to pay your bills. I want you to be able to choose how you spend your time while giving your kids the most amazing childhoods possible. And that's why I created this podcast. Everyone has different opinions on whether you should use a credit card or a debit card. And I'm no different. Personally, I use credit cards for everything, and I use debit cards for nothing. And I actively use credit cards for everything, and I actively don't use debit cards for everything. For me, it's very clear, and for my personal situation, it works beautifully to use credit cards for everything. Now, you'll make the decision for yourself and your family what really works best. I discuss credit cards a lot in my book, and in there are a lot of warnings about credit cards, so it really takes a lot of self-control. So why don't I use debit cards for anything? I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story about my life that will illustrate my reason. About 6 years ago, my wife and I were living in Brooklyn with our daughter, who was about 1 at the time. And I then logged into my bank website and I saw that someone had taken out $500 from an ATM in Manhattan the day before. My wife and I were not in Manhattan the day before, and we didn't take out the $500. Easy enough, I called the bank, and that's when the trouble got even worse. Because when it's your bank account that money is stolen from, the burden is on you to prove that the money wasn't taken out by you or spent by you, and in the meantime, that money's lost. So that may change with certain banks. Maybe they'd credit you temporarily, but that money was gone. And $500 is a lot of money. And this happened to one of my siblings about a week ago. Thousands of dollars was taken out of her account, and she had to prove it was not taken by her. And she was able to do that. And it was fine. But in the meantime, it's terrifying. So for me, this is a big ordeal. It required so much back and forth with the bank, letters and proof and denials, and I had to fight the bank and I had to appeal it, and they kept telling me that it was me who took the money out again and again and again, and they didn't understand the case, and back and forth and back and forth. Again, 3 months later, finally, of all this stress, they realized that it wasn't us who taken out the money, and they gave it back to us. So for me, I never have to want to deal with that again. I don't put my debit card anywhere. I don't put it online anywhere. I don't use it in any grocery store. I don't use it in any store. I only use it at ATMs. But that gets to how the money was stolen in the first place. There was actually a skimmer placed on a 7-Eleven ATM machine, a Citibank ATM in Brooklyn near our house. And so that skimmer stole our information, and then the thief was able to use that to take money out at an ATM in Manhattan somehow. So now I always check for skimmers anytime I'm at an ATM. In terms of credit cards, if someone steals your number and makes a purchase, you call the credit card company and they deal with it. You don't have to pay that back, and I've never had any problem before with it. This has happened many times. Someone once charged me for $5 for a phone bill in Mexico, or other random charges over the years, and all I have to do is call the credit card company, dispute it, and then I don't have to pay. I didn't have to jump through any hoops or anything, and it was really easy. At the most, I'd have to send a written letter stating that the charge wasn't mine. So I'd rather deal with some way to spend my money that I don't have to worry that money's going to be stolen from my bank account itself. You never want to open up your bank account and see that there was $1,000 missing. That's scary. In terms of credit cards, if I use those instead and I use them properly and I pay them off every month, I can just accrue points. And they really do add up. I just checked my credit card points. I have $2,022 available. But if you don't pay off your bills in full every month, or you have to pay any fees, then those fees and any interest will eat away at those immediately. So they'll negate all your benefits. Also, if you use your debit card for everything, then you'll have to manually balance that every single month when you balance your checkbook. And it's going to take you a lot of extra time, and there's bound to be some mistakes with so many purchases. Everyone's situation is unique though. And make a decision for your family what's best for you, credit cards or debit cards, and whatever you do, make sure that you use them safely. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. To help you get started on your journey to stretch your income, save on everything, and spend more time with your family, you should visit my website, moneyfordads.com, and download the Money for Dads Starter Kit for free. In the kit is the Money for Dads amazing and simple budget template, which auto-calculates everything. It's so easy to use. And you'll also get my 11 money-saving tips guaranteed to change your life. They're philosophies that I use that have helped me to stretch my family's income as much as I have. So if you like this podcast, then subscribe. And if you think that it could help somebody else, a friend of yours, share it with them. I'd love to be able to help more people. And even better, which would help get the word out even more about this podcast, give it a review and a rating. I read all reviews, and I'd love to hear how the podcast helps you. So go to your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whichever one you use, and give it a review and a rating now. The more reviews that I have, the more we can share these ideas with the world, build the Money for Dads community, and help more dads spend more time with their families. Also, if you write a review, I'll probably give it a shout out on a future podcast. Thanks again for listening, and have an awesome rest of the day.